It's been another shocking season. So many teams have been poor defensively. Apart from Man City and Liverpool, most teams have been abysmal. So let's look at some of those teams. Let's focus on Everton because they were one of the most surprising teams last season. They could have gotten relegated, which is no joke. They were that bad. And I'm scratching my head thinking, how did they perform so badly? Their squad looks okay on paper, but for some reason, they just didn't deliver. They conceded over 60 goals last season as well, which is not acceptable. They also lost more than half their games, and that is a concern because going into next season, you're sort of wondering what they're going to dish out. And watching Everton for a large part of this season, for some reason, if a team scored the first goal, the game would be over. There was no hope of Everton coming back. Even if the first goal was scored in the first 5 minutes, they were gone. So things need to change. Otherwise, next season, they could get relegated. Let's take a look at Norwich because I thought that they were going to stay up last season. They got relegated 2 years ago, so I thought that they would have learned from their mistakes and knew exactly what they needed to do to stay up. But obviously, that didn't happen. And now, last season, they conceded over 80 goals, which is just not Premier League level. Let's be honest. They're a championship team that couldn't hack it at the top level. They lost 26 games. Like, what is the point? This team is just hopeless. I think Pookie is a decent player, but the rest of them are atrocious. The next team is Manchester United, and yes, they're going to get the beatdown. They conceded 57 goals last season, which is not acceptable for a club this size. Like, how did this even happen? Defensively, they look good on paper, but just didn't perform. And to finish off the season, they won just once in their last five, which is abysmal. Let's not forget that United were supposed to have challenged for the league last season. They got in Ronaldo and a whole bunch of other players that made them title contenders, in theory. And I say in theory because, obviously, just because you sign a couple of players, it doesn't guarantee you anything. But looking at the previous season, United finished second, so the only way to go up from second is first. And what a shocking season. I mean, where do you even begin? So many poor performances, and you kind of think that, well, I know for a fact that things will probably get worse because, when you look at it, the transfer window has been one of the worst I've seen from United in years and probably ever because we've taken ages to bring, even just one player in, and, we brought in a player that is going to be a bench player, if not loaned out. The De Jong deal has been a joke. Ronaldo wants to leave. And the season is less than a month away. Well, just over. So, yeah, things aren't looking good. But yeah, we'll see what happens. There's still time to bring in some players, but preseason has started and, this really couldn't get any worse. The last team we're going to look at is Wolves because I think they've had a disappointing season. The previous season, they nearly got relegated, so you could make a case that they overachieved last season. But because they were having such a good season and they were a top 10 side for most of the season, you expected them to do a lot better. Now, they are one of the most inconsistent teams in the league. It's unbelievable. They could be one of the best teams one week, and then they could be one of the worst teams the next week. It's unreal how much this team changes in just a week. It's absolutely ridiculous. And yeah, once again, I think they should have finished higher up in the league. I think they should have finished in a European spot. I think that's how good they were. But obviously, they just didn't deliver. And, they didn't win any of the last 5 games to end the season. So I think, I'm not sure that really sums up their season. But, when things are going good, you've got to strike. You got to strike when the iron's hot, and they just didn't do that. Maybe next season they can replicate what they did this season, but do even better. But let's wait and see what happens.